All right, let's get ready for another deep dive. This time we're heading into the heart of Big East basketball.
Sounds good to me.
We're talking about the St. John's Red Storm. They're playing this old school style that's really turning heads.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to see, especially in today's game.
Right. You just don't see that kind of physicality anymore. And they're actually winning. They have a serious chance at their first Big East title in, get this, 40 years.
I know. It's crazy, right? You think about how much the game has changed in that time. I mean, think about how dominant three-pointers are now.
Exactly. So that's what makes their story so interesting. I mean, they're not a great three-point shooting team.
Definitely not. But they make up for it in other ways.
For sure. We've actually got this article here. It's titled St. John's Triumph, Journey Towards the Big East Title. And it's in Arabic, so.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's a bit of a challenge for me, but I think we can get the gist of it.
Well, I'm all ears.
The big question is, can they really win it all with this weakness from beyond the arc? I mean, in today's game, is that even possible?
It's a great question. And to really understand it, we need to start with their coach, Rick Pitino.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is a legend.
Right. He's completely transformed the team. And you can see how he's brought that energy back to Madison Square Garden. The fans are electric.
Oh, totally. It's like even Spike Lee is showing up in full St. John's gear.
You know it's serious when Spike Lee's on board.
They haven't seen this kind of excitement in decades. And their record at home at the Garden, 17-0, undefeated.
Unbelievable. What do you think is behind this whole Pitino effect?
Well, you know, he's always been known for his emphasis on defense, rebounding, that old school physicality, right?
Right, exactly. And it seems like it really rattles opponents. Even Dan Hurley, he's the coach of UConn.
Yeah, I know Dan Hurley. He's intense.
He is. So even he was saying their defense, their rebounding, it's scary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he actually said if their three-point shooting ever catches up, they'll be almost unbeatable.
Whoa. High praise from Dan Hurley. That's saying something.
Which brings us back to their Achilles heel, right? The three-point shooting.
Yeah.
You know, they had that incredible game against UConn. Remember that? They were the defending champs. And St. John's just, I don't know, they exploded from beyond the arc.
They did. I mean, it's unexpected, to say the least.
It was. It makes you wonder, was it a fluke? Or is it a sign of things to come?
I was wondering the same thing.
Well, the article talks about this moment, right? Where they were just missing everything from outside.
Mm-hmm.
And Pitino, he kind of jokingly told them, hey guys, at least try to hit the rim.
What happened?
And then it was like, boom, like someone flipped a switch they couldn't miss.
No way.
It was crazy. I mean, R.J. Lewis Jr., he's been a pretty inconsistent shooter from deep all season. But in that game, he hit 3 3-pointers in the first half alone.
Wow. He only shoots like 27% from three on the season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that game was definitely an outlier. Yeah. But it shows you what they're capable of. They ended up hitting 8 3-pointers in that first half.
Wow.
And they dominated UConn.
Okay, so they can do it, but can they do it consistently?
Right. That's the million-dollar question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be real. They're ranked like bottom 25 nationally in three-point percentage. They're only averaging a little over 6 made threes per game.
Yikes.
Yeah. So you have to ask, can that kind of inconsistency win you a championship? Especially in this era of basketball.
It's a valid point. Think about it. Most teams live and die by the three-pointer.
Right.
It's how they spread the floor, how they generate offense. St. John's, they're basically saying, we're going to beat you with toughness, defense, and a mid-range game. It's almost like a throwback,
It is. It's like a different era of basketball. Makes you wonder, could they actually change the game? I mean, if they keep winning, could we see other teams shifting back to that more physical style of play?
That's a really good question. It would be a bold move to go against the grain like that. But then, Pitino, he's always been kind of a maverick, always challenging the status quo.
He has. So maybe he's the one to do it.
Maybe.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, there's this other factor we have to talk about.
What's that?
Injuries. They've been dealing with some pretty serious injuries to some key players.
Oh, right.
Kaderi Richmond, R.J. Lewis Jr., Devon Smith.
Yeah, those guys are important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These aren't just like little bumps and bruises. We're talking, season derailing type injuries.
Hey, I'm going to listen.
Take Richmond's groin injury, for example.
Yeah.
This thing it's bad. He's been in serious pain to the point where after that UConn game, he couldn't even walk to the press conference.
Oh, wow. That's rough.
Yeah, it is. And, a groin injury like that, it can really limit a player's, their explosiveness, their ability to drive, defend, everything.
Yeah,
So even with their old school style and Pitino's guidance, these injuries are a major obstacle.
for sure. And we're heading into March, the tournament. I mean, you need everyone healthy if you're going to make a deep run.
Absolutely. So it's like, it feels like St. John's is at this crossroads, right?
Yeah.
They've got this incredible momentum. They've brought the excitement back to the Garden, but they've got these hurdles, the three-point shooting, the injuries.
It makes their story even more compelling.
It does. Can they overcome it all? Can they reach their ultimate goal?
Yeah.
I guess that's what we're all waiting to see.
It is. I can't wait to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, it's like they're walking this tightrope between their old school style and the demands of the modern game. You know what I mean?
Totally. And it makes you think, is there still room in college basketball for a team like this to really succeed? I mean, the three-pointer has changed everything, right?
Right. It's crazy to think, back in 1985, when St. John's last won the Big East, the three-pointer was barely a thing. Teams focused on defense, rebounding, working the ball inside.
It's true. It was a completely different game. Back then, teams averaged like 4 3-point attempts per game. Now it's more like 25. Everything's shifted to the perimeter.
So to see a team like St. John's doing so well with this like throwback style, it makes you wonder if maybe, just maybe, the pendulum could start swinging back.
That would be something. Could they actually inspire other programs to, rethink their reliance on the three-pointer, to focus more on developing well-rounded players?
That would be a huge shift, but it'd be pretty cool to see.
It would. Think about it. If St. John's wins the Big East, makes a deep run in the tournament, coaches are going to take notice. They'll be asking themselves, hold on, is there another way to win?
Right. Can we build a team that's less reliant on the three-pointer and more focused on fundamentals?
Exactly.
It'd be a bold move to go against the trend, but if anyone can spark that kind of change, I think it might be Pitino. He's always been a bit of a rule breaker.
Yeah.
Always willing to do things his own way.
He has. He definitely doesn't follow the crowd.
And the article mentions how he encourages his players to take open threes, but he doesn't want them to force it. Like he trusts their defense enough to make up for any misses.
That's interesting. It's almost like he's saying, we're going to play our game our way, and it won't matter if we're not hitting threes at the same rate as other teams.
I think that's exactly what he's saying.
Bold strategy. It'll be interesting to see how it works against the top teams. Their upcoming game against Seton Hall, that'll be a good test.
Especially since it's been moved to Madison Square Garden. Did you hear about that?
No way. Seriously.
Yeah. The demand from St. John's fans, it's crazy. They sold out their usual arena, so they had to move the game to a bigger venue.
That's incredible.
Talk about excitement. You can feel the buzz around the city. It's
Yeah.
like the glory days are back.
It really is.
And this game against Seton Hall, they could clinch the Big East title outright.
Wow, that would be amazing.
Can you imagine? Their first conference championship in 40 years at the Garden, in front of a packed house.
Chills. It would be a historic night.
It would. But, we have to remember the injuries. They need those key players, Richmond, Lewis Jr., Smith. They need them at full strength if they want to make a real run in the tournament.
Oh, absolutely. If they're not healthy, it's a completely different story.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What if they had been fully healthy all season? What if Richmond hadn't been playing through that groin injury? Could they have been even better?
It's hard to say, but yeah, it's an interesting thought. But even with the injuries, they've already accomplished something amazing. They've shown that you don't have to follow the crowd to be successful.
I agree.
They've shown that toughness, defense, a strong team identity, it can still take you a long way.
And it's definitely a more compelling story than just, we hit a bunch of threes and won.
Sure.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit here. We've talked about the potential impact on the college game, but let's think bigger picture. If St. John's keeps this up, what could it mean for the future of basketball, at all levels? Is this a sign that people are starting to move away from this obsession with the three-pointer?
That's a big question.
It is? Or is it just a blip on the radar?
It's tough to say, but
Yeah.
honestly, I think it's more than just a blip. I think there's a real hunger out there for this kind of basketball, this grit and determination. People are tired of just watching guys chuck threes all game.
I think you're right. There's something about their style that resonates. It's refreshing, it's exciting, and it reminds us that there's more to the game than just shooting from deep.
Exactly. There's something to be said for, like, the beauty of a well-executed play, a tough defensive stop, a hard-fought rebound. It's not all about flash and highlights.
And, it's not just the fans who are noticing. The article actually mentions that NBA scouts are starting to pay attention to St. John's players. Yeah, they're seeing the value in guys who can, defend, rebound, score in a variety of ways.
It makes sense. For a while there, it felt like the NBA was all about finding the next Steph Curry, the next three-point machine. But now I think teams are realizing that you need more than just shooters to win. You need those guys who can do the dirty work, who can make those hustle plays.
Those glue guys. And that's what St. John's is all about. They're tough, unselfish, willing to do whatever it takes to win.
And that's a direct reflection of Pitino's coaching, I think. He's always been about building that kind of team-first mentality.
It's working. You can see the confidence, the intensity they play with. It's contagious. And they're doing it all while playing a style that most people thought was, outdated.
It really is remarkable.
It is. So, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's leave our listeners with this thought. What if St. John's actually pulls this off? What if they win the Big East? Make a deep run in the tournament? Prove that their old-school style can compete with the best teams in the country?
What would that mean for the sport? Would it change the way the game is played? Would we see a resurgence of this tougher, more physical style?
I guess we'll have to wait and see. We've talked a lot about what this all means for the college game, but what about the players? Can you imagine being on that team right now?
Oh, man. It must be unbelievable.
To be part of something this big, to feel that energy from the city, to have a chance to make history. That's got to be something special.
Absolutely. That kind of experience, it stays with you. It can really shape your whole career, And not just on the court, but off it, too.
It's funny you say that because the article, it actually talks about legacy, how these guys, they're not just playing for themselves, they're playing for all those St. John's players who came before them.
And for the fans, too. 40 years without a championship. That's a long time. Think about all the people who've been waiting for this. All the alumni, all the diehards who never gave up hope.
Yeah, it's like this team is carrying all those hopes and dreams with them.
And doing it with a style that, it really embodies that New York City basketball spirit, that toughness, that grit, They just don't quit.
And that connection to the city, it's so cool. The article mentions how Pitino, he's really embraced that New York basketball identity. He's brought in guys like Chris Mullin, Mark Jackson, city legends to talk to the team.
Smart move. Tap into that history, that tradition, and use it to, fuel the team.
And it's working.
Yeah.
They're playing with so much confidence, it's almost contagious,
I know. And it's more than just skills, It's like this mental toughness. They just rise to the occasion.
So can they keep it up? Can they really make a run at the title?
Well, like we've said, the three-point shooting, it's still a question mark. And those injuries, they're a big factor. But, hey, they've already defied the odds.
They have. They've brought back the excitement to Madison Square Garden, given everyone a reason to believe.
They've reminded us that it's not all about analytics and three-pointers. It's about teamwork, hard work, and a little bit of that old school grit.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave our listeners with this. Win or lose, this season has been a success for St. John's.
100%. They've shown that there's more than one way to play the game, and they've inspired a whole city along the way. That's pretty special.
It is. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll catch you next time for another exciting look at the world of sports.